New York-based consultancy Kroll is in the risk business. It has clients in 140 different countries and a correspondingly broad range of expertise to tackle all the challenges that come with that. And of course, there's cyber. I sat down with Jason Smolenoff and Megan Green from Kroll to talk through the challenges of the digital world and the costs associated with them. Jason, Megan, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. First of all, why don't you give us a brief overview about Kroll and how far it spreads and what it does?
Sure, thank you. It's really lovely to be here. Kroll is one of the largest risk management and financial services companies in the world, and we provide a variety of different types of services for our clients, everything from valuations to M&A type of work, traditional investigations, business services, along with what we're doing and talking about here today, which is cyber.
Okay, let's get straight into cyber, shall we? I mean, there's a war on in Europe at the moment. Tensions are throughout the geopolitical community. Are we seeing a corresponding acceleration, do you think, in cyber activity these days?
There is a tremendous amount of cyber activity these days, and the motivation is what has shifted. It's been fascinating to really watch. This year, as opposed to other years, there has been a shift from financially motivated cybercrime to more computer intrusions and other types of activity to disrupt and dismantle systems and networks. This really all goes towards more of an intelligence gathering and support of warfare type of activity.
To me, in my head as a layman, that moves away from the guy in his basement going online and causing trouble to sort of something more state-sponsored and state actors involved.
These are definitely state actors who are involved here. And what's really been fascinating is most state-sponsored actors have tried to stay quiet and non-attributable over the years. And this year was the first time where we have seen state-sponsored groups taking affiliation or choosing sides, so choosing the Russian side or choosing the Ukrainian side.
Megan, you're Kroll's chief economist, which is a big enough job already, but you're also a Kroll Institute fellow. Tell us a bit about that.
Sure, I'm one of a number of Kroll Institute fellows, and we're from different parts of the firm. We come together to provide thought leadership across the business services that Kroll offers, both to the firm internally, but also externally to the firm's clients. So we cover all areas, all business services, and the entire world.
This strikes me as a real shift because there was a time when people from the outside would think of cyber as being something that was either disruptive or destructive or had an element of blackmail to it. But what we're seeing now is more just the pulling out the plugs from underneath people's economic infrastructure. Is that a fair assessment?
That's right. So by way of example, cyber attacks on supply chains have increased 80% over the past 3 years. There are real macro implications of that, as we've learned over the course of the pandemic and this war in Ukraine, that when you gum up supply chains, that's inflationary, and now we're all struggling with inflation. So cyber attacks really feed in directly to the macro picture.
Okay, so Jason, where does Kroll fit into all this?
So Kroll is truly a risk management program, and what I would say is we have to start from the beginning, and the measure of a good information security program is how rapidly you can detect an incident and how effectively you can respond. And when you can say that and do that in a very fast and effective way, what that will do is minimize your risk to financial risk, regulatory risk, reputational risk, and other types of risks that come as a result of having to disclose that an attack occurred. And we help clients really pre-incident and post-incident in all aspects of cyber.
This idea of being able to help a client before and help a client after, could you just clarify that?
So the easiest way to divide up the cyber world is before an incident and after an incident. And so before an incident, we help clients manage their risk through a variety of different types of governance, risk, and compliance type of work, along with testing, both technical testing and through different types of technical testing. So helping that helps a client mitigate their risk up front prior to an incident happening. Post-incident, We have, I think, the largest market share of the incident response space in the world, and we provide not just investigative support, but we help clients mitigate any type of threat that an attacker has made. Along with, we can help a client if they need to. We can help them satisfy their statutory and regulatory requirements with respect to notification.
There's clearly a growing need and a changing need, but perhaps with your work with the Institute, I don't know, can you feel a kind of a culture change in society about how people approach these sort of issues?
Yeah, so there's a massive undersupply of labor in this area. So I think Kroll can often offer support to companies as well. It puts companies in a tough place because their costs are rising so significantly in terms of having to provide cybersecurity that it's thinning out their margins. So their resources are more thinly spread. And there's a shortfall of about 2.75 million workers in this space globally, which just means that those workers are in a place to negotiate for better wages, so they're more expensive as well. So that's where third-party companies can really step in to help fill that gap because it puts companies in a tough spot.
I think your portfolio is clearly growing, and there's more and more work to be done, and to keep pace with the way things are changing.
Sure.
That means you need a large group of very highly skilled people to carry out this kind of work. Is that a challenge for Kroll at the moment?
Well, we have a very large team. I think we are one of the only teams in the world who really span the globe. We're over several hundred people in about 19 countries, and the only company in the world who can truly provide all the types of services a client needs pre-incident, along with the post-incident type of response, mitigation, and notification services.
Clearly, the sort of discussions or the sort of people that you're working alongside now are moving up in the kind of geopolitical sphere. In other words, what might have been a niche organization, sounds like now you're sitting pretty close to the top table in terms of keeping an eye on everything.
We are, and what I think is going on is industry has really led the way, and now you're seeing governments start to adopt some of the procedures and operational methodologies that private industry has. I also think governments are now really starting to see the need to really help support private industry in training and identifying quality individuals to really help support the cybersecurity effort.
What about partnerships in terms of the governmental associations or even contracts that you might get, or indeed the communications between different large industrial sectors? I mean, how do partnerships feature in your sort of interface with clients?
So that's almost a key strategic objective of Kroll Cyber, is to be a partner to many other companies. And so what we have chosen is to say, hey, the client has made a buying decision. They wanted to buy a certain type of technology. And what we say is, okay, you can buy whatever kind of technology you want. And what we will do is we'll help you manage it on your behalf with experts who are truly trained in this space. Because as we've been talking about, hiring and finding qualified individuals for certain types of technologies can be extremely expensive and very difficult to retain. And so many clients want to partner with Kroll to help support them with their cybersecurity management.
So you've got an accelerating threat, and you've got an adjustment in mindset and an adjustment in the workforce perhaps on the other side. I mean, what's your view, Megan, of the future about how we're going to be tackling this going forward? Because it's a constantly changing story, isn't it?
That's right, and it will be constantly changing, right? It's based on never-ending technology upgrades, so there is no end period for that. So companies are already having to engage with cybersecurity. I think they're always going to have to engage with cybersecurity, and they're always going to have to try to stay one step ahead. And again, that's based on evolving technology. So this is a field that's going to be expanding for a while. There's a skills shortage. I think companies are still grappling with what to do about the costs. They can either try to pass them on to the end user, which is inflationary, right, by hiking prices, or they can thin out their margins, and that means that they have fewer resources to use to hire people and to invest, so that that really drags on growth. So the jury's still out on which factor is more important, but inflation on the one hand or lower growth on the other, neither of those is particularly good for the economy.
Then, Jason, that puts Kroll in a great position. I mean, it's a challenging position. The bad actors are getting more sophisticated, and there's there are challenges to be met on the other side, but Kroll is best placed perhaps to tackle this going forward.
We are very well placed to tackle this particular problem, mostly due to our technology agnostic approach. We have a product, it's called Kroll Responder. And what Kroll Responder is, it helps a client rapidly detect and effectively respond to different incidents, regardless of the technology that the client chooses to use.
Jason and Megan, thanks very much indeed. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having us.